Okay, so we're going to be looking at our second session here in Module 5. So I'm going to take a peek at our agenda. Oh, not much to do there. I must have updated it, but that's okay. I know what I'm going to do and I have a plan. So no worries at all. We're actually going to focus on assignment 5B. The last time we were together, we did the practice problems for Module 5, and those would lead in directly to how to do the problems in assignment 5A, as I had said. The ones that we did in our practice problems were the saddle bracket and the anchor base. These were problems that you had done in Module 3, and you already have 3 views constructed for each one of the parts. So I showed you how to start with your template, insert as a block each one of these files at 1-to-1, and then pull in your border afterwards, and then finish with dimensioning. So we did the process for each of those, in class the last time we were together. That very same process is going to be what you do for the 4 problems that are assigned, and these are all out of that AutoCAD book. And again, these are just like those 2 on the Module 5 practice problems, where you have already created 3 views of each one of these parts. You're going to insert it into whatever template, whether it's inch or metric, pull in the appropriate border, and then dimension. For dimensioning, you'll notice down here, there are the drawing guides. If you wanted a little extra credit and you wanted to, dimension and do that same process for 2 more parts that are out of that same chapter in that, I think it was chapter 5 in that AutoCAD book, then you can do those. That's totally independent. Notice there are no guides for extra credit, so you're on your own. Okay, so do your best. So, so that mimics what we did the last time that we were together. So in our second assignment in Module 5, which is assignment 5B, these 4 drawings you have not created yet. Okay, you haven't done these. So this is going to be our opportunity to start from scratch. Okay, so there's not going to be inserting a file that we've already created. We're going to start with the file, pull in the border, and it's going to be just one file that we create with dimensioning. Okay, so these are the 5. Now these, I'm sorry, 4. These 4 drawings that I have assigned here that I want you to create, top to bottom, you're going to do the 3 views, you're going to pull in your border, and you're going to dimension them appropriately. The drawing guides are right down here. Okay. Now we're going to do the first one. Okay. And maybe we'll do a second. We'll kind of see. You guys, it's not a, it's a democracy. I'll see if anybody wants to do another one. But we're going to go to page 272 in our tech drafting book. So this is not out of the AutoCAD book. This is out of the tech drafting book, the big fat one, the big one. If you don't have it with you right now, that's okay, because I have it right underneath here. And through the drawing guides, you will get what you need. So if you click on the drawing guide and you open that up, this is going to be what we're going to be creating. Okay. All right. So no worries, like I said, if you don't have the book with you at the moment. All right, so what I have underneath our camera, my camera on, is page 272 in that tech drafting book, and I'll show you exactly where our index feed is and what we have to work with. Okay, so our index feed is right here. This is the part that we're going to be creating. So we'll be doing this together. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look what units are we dealing with here. So anybody have an idea what units we're working with? What does it look like? English, inch units, or is it metric millimeters? Julia, yeah, it looks like it's inches to us. I mean, first of all, a couple things that we can see here. Notice that the through hole here is a 1/2 inch. It's a nominal size. Same thing with 3/4. And then you'll also notice that these lengths, there's 2 decimal places, 3.25 millimeters would be really small, right? So yes, this is going to be an inch drawing. So that means when we pull up the template, we're going to pull in our WCTC inch template to get us started in AutoCAD. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I am going to close what I have here. I don't want to save this. I'm going to close this. And I am going to start new. Now, when you open up AutoCAD, you have that option to select a template, which is the third one over, and you want to then either it's going to be populated in your list like it is mine because I have a locally loaded version of AutoCAD. Yep. But if not, especially if you're on campus, then you have to just navigate to where that template is. Okay, so WCTC inch. So I'm going to say okay. And now all the settings that we set up, not only for our layers, so if you kind of check your layers here, okay, those are there, but you should also have the standard dimension managers that we did for 2 and 3 place decimals, okay? And we did that the last time we were together, so we added that to our template. Now, I moved my toolbars around just because I wanted my dimensioning toolbar up here on top. Yours might look a little different, and that's okay, all right? So now that we have our kind of our environment set up nice and fresh with a new part, what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of laying this out. And how I'm going to approach this is I'm going to start by putting our construction lines in place and then kind of drawing just the boxes, really generic rectangles for the perimeter of each one of the views, okay? So if we look underneath the camera, you're going to notice here that this is going to be, and my front view, I'm going to look at it in this way right here, okay? So the front view has 3.25, which is one of the longest dimensions. And we're going to find that it also is going to be a dimension that's going to depict kind of that major shape of the part, okay? So that's why I chose it. So I'm going to draw a rectangle that's 3.25 wide in that front view. And then height-wise, it looks like I'm 1.56 from the very bottom to the very top. So I'm going to go back to AutoCAD, and I'm going to start by putting my construction layer on, and then we're going to use construction lines to create kind of the outline. And we've done this before. So I'm going to put my construction line in place here. I'm going to start with a vertical one. Now, if you want to anchor on the 0, 0, that's totally fine for you, but I'm going to start wherever. Okay, don't have to. And I'm going to put a vertical, then I'm going to do an offset, 3.25. It's going to be my width. And then I'm going to do another, but this time my construction line is going to be horizontal. Okay. And then I'm going to offset it to 1.56. So my height is set for my front view. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, kind of get this right about there. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go back to my object, line layer. I'm going to put on my line widths, and I'm just going to make my rectangle going around. And you want to hit each one of those intersections at the corners of those construction lines that we just created. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a miter line in. Now, this miter line will be taken out because it's never going to be part of a final drawing. But for construction purposes, it's a really nice option, okay? So we haven't done it lately, so I think it's just good to do it again. I've been noticing that some people have been doing it for construction, and I like that. So pick up these tools as you feel they work for you. Some things you might like, some things you might not. And that's the beauty of AutoCAD. Then you're going to look over somebody else's shoulder and be like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or I wasn't doing it that way. Everything in AutoCAD you can do like 4 different ways, truly. Okay. So I try to give you as many things, things that I find work well, but also ideas for different ways that you can do things. So we're going to be creating a line, and I'm going to do it with my object line. I'm going to leave it my object line and not a construction line because I want it to kind of stand out as we're doing the constructing. Okay. So from my front view, I'm going to put my miter line in place. So I have to turn off my ortho. And then you're going to notice it's like, I need this at a 45-degree angle, okay? So I am going to put on my polar tracking, okay? I'm going to click it on, and then I'm going to go to the arrow right next to it. And I'm just going to make sure that the 45, 90, 135 is checked, because that way I know that when I get to close to 45 degrees, it should snap to it. And that's what I want to happen. So I don't have to like key it in as a polar. So I'm going to kind of put this out here a little bit. I'm just going to make a nice long line, 45-degree angle like that. Okay. And so again, I'm leaving it as an object line just because I want it to, kind of be pronounced as opposed to just being a construction line. Okay, so now I'm going to create my my top view. So I'm going to go back to, and it's just the rectangle for it. I'm going to go back to my construction lines. I'm going to create and I'm going to leave a distance about like this horizontal line across. Okay. And then I'm going to do an offset. And if I look top view wise, the width of my part going back is going to be 2.5. So I'll go back to AutoCAD. We're going to offset 2.5. I already put the offset feature in, and it should be there. There we go. There's 2.5. And now I'm going to go back to my object line layer and just create the rectangle for the perimeter around the outside with those four points. Okay. So that's my top view. Now, I'm going to use the miter line now to create my right side view, because with that miter line, it's going to set the distance away from the front view. You can't just start drawing a front view over here if you're going to use that miter line later on. So we need to use the perimeter. So this horizontal line, the two horizontal lines for the depth dimensions in that top view, we're now going to bring down to create the width of our right side view. So I'm going to go back to my construction layer, arrow down here, construction line, and I'm going to find the intersection here. Make sure it's the intersection, okay? And when I click on it, then I'm going to go back to ortho, just make sure I'm vertical lines, and I'm going to go straight down with a line there. Then I'm going to hit enter again to repeat my last command, and I'm going to do the very same thing, another construction line going straight down. And now when I pan up, I've got my rectangle for my right side view. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my object line layer, grab my lines. And now before I move forward, I just want to do a really quick check. Okay. And the reason I'm going to do this is because if things aren't right at this point, then I'm going to have a lot to clean up later on if I need to. So all I want to do, I'm not even going to put this on the dimension layer. I'm just going to put dimensions, linear dimensions for each one of the dimensions I just created. So I just want to make sure that the width is right. Okay. And when I go here, 3.25, that looks like it's correct. I'm going to do the same thing for the height. Now I'm not going to do each view. 1.56, that looks good, because I know they're an orthographic projection. Okay. And then the other dimension I'm just going to check is the 2.5. Okay. So I'm in good shape, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to select each one of those and delete it. That's it. All right. So that's just a little check. Never a bad idea to do that, because you don't want to get to the end and be like, huh, how come that wasn't right? And it can happen. It can happen. A little mistype or something like that. Okay. So now's a good time to do a quick save on this. So we're going to do a save as, and this is called the IndexFeed. Okay. And I got to call mine _1 just because I've done this a couple times. Okay, so now we've got to kind of devise where we're going to start. Now, since we started with the front view, that's where I'm going to really kind of start my construction. I'm going to go back underneath here. If I'm looking in this direction, I want to create the two kind of cutouts that are at the bottom here. Okay, you'll notice that from the left side, we're going to have 1.25 is where that cutout ends. Okay. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to go in between here. So I'm going to have a distance of 1.25. And then you're going to notice that this dimension right here, that dimension is what we call a limit dimension. Okay. Now the limit dimension, all it tells us, if we kind of scooch in here a little closer, it just gives us what is the highest value that we can have for that feature and what is the lowest value. Now, we already talked a little bit about tolerances. So any one of the dimensions that doesn't have or just has one number, the tolerance is found in the title block, right? So a 2-place decimal equates to plus or minus 20 thousandths, okay? So that's going to set for me how high that dimension can go for that feature and how low it can go. So when I make it and I check it with the calipers, okay, I got to compare it to that range. Okay, now instead of defaulting to the title block, this dimension, it's telling me what is the target. It's telling me what the top number is, what the bottom number is. And you're going to notice that it doesn't match what's in our title block, and that's why it's here. Okay, so in this case, we only have a difference of 5 thousandths. A 3-place decimal standard dimension tolerance in our title block, WCTC title block, is plus or minus 5 thousandths. So really a total of 10. So this is more accurate than that. All right. So because it didn't fall into the standard title block tolerances, then we had to specify it specifically, which it did here. Okay. So when we draw it though, we want to look for 2 things. Okay. Or one of 2 things. Number one, is there a nominal dimension in that limit? And there is. The top limit is 0.75 and the lower limit is 0.745. You draw then to that like standard number, that basic dimension, that nominal value, okay, that falls on a common inch increment. Okay, so we're going to do it at 0.75. If the limits, one of the high or the low, wasn't a value that was in there. So let's say this came out and they had 0.756, okay? And then the bottom number was 0.748. Because 0.75 would have been in that range, you still draw it to 0.75. Does that make sense to everybody? So you kind of look for that nominal, like in this case, inch increment. If it was for a millimeter, then you would look for that nominal millimeter value, and then you draw it to that. So we're going to draw it. We're going to offset 1.25, and then we're going to offset another 0.75. So we'll go back to AutoCAD. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset the construction lines just to so that I don't have as much to trim, if you would. So we're going to go to the offset command, and my distance is going to be 1.25. I'm going to select and move to the right and then click. Then hit escape, hit enter again to get right back in. And then this time my distance is going to be 0.75. I'm going to select, go to the right, and then that's my width. Then we're going to do the dimension going up, and that dimension is 0.19. So we're going to do the offset command again. This time my distance is 0.19. I'm going to select and go up and click, and then hit escape. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my object line layer is on, and I'm simply going to draw lines from the intersections to intersection here. Escape, then intersection. Oh, I should have done it. If you do it as separate, it's totally fine. It doesn't make a difference. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to trim away those chunks that we don't need. So I'm going to click on the trim. I'm going to left click, hold, and then drag over the top of the ones that I don't need. Now, the reason I have to do this is because we have the construction line underneath, AutoCAD doesn't know which one to pick. So if you try to singly select them, they may not work. Okay, so then the best way to do it then is to drag over the top. So it's literally a left click, drag, and then just kind of draw a line to, go over the lines that you want to get rid of. And then I'm going to hit escape. And now I've got that bottom feature in. Okay. So then let's go back and see what else we can draw. Okay. So it looks like we could draw this portion going up and get the overall height. Okay. We could also draw the height here, and we could also offset for the distance that this comes down, it looks like. And and we also know where that starts. That's going to be 1 inch. So there's a couple things that we can do here. So let's go back to AutoCAD, and what we're going to do is we're going to do as much as we can in the front view, and then we're going to move to a different view, and then back and kind of forth. And that's usually how you construct. So, so the next thing I'm going to do is I have a 0.62 offset to kind of like the main upper flat on our part. So I'm going to do an offset of 0.62. See. Oops, did I not do it? Hold on. So offset 0.62, there we go. And I'm going to take my construction line again, and I'm going to go up, okay? And that represents this flat right here, the 0.62, okay? Now I'm going to move over, and I'm gonna do 1 inch from the other side, and then down 0.19. Back to AutoCAD. I'm gonna do another offset, 1 inch this time. We're gonna take the construction line and go in. And then from where we had just created the 0.62 line, we're going to do an offset of 0.19 going down. Okay. Now we have to put our lines in place. Oh, and then there's one more line that we want to do. And this is where you got to kind of keep track of your construction lines. We're going to draw the upright here, and that's an offset of 0.25 from that edge. Back over here, and I'm going to do an an offset 0.25, and I'm going to do my construction line in. Okay, so now the line that I'm going to draw on the object line layer, I'm going to start where I just created that 0.25, go down to my main, go over to my 1 inch away, down, and then over. And then I am going to also go straight across that section where that cutout is, okay? Because it is a flat surface in back of that. Okay. So I'll let you guys catch up. Now, there will be other things that we have to change about this, but for right now, it's about as far as I can go, okay, with what I have so far. So, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to look over to the right side and translate some of this over to the right, okay? So if we look back at our part, although we don't see a good view coming from the right, we're going to be looking in this direction. And if I look at that bottom, part that's sticking out the bottom, I have to assume it's going the entire length of the part, okay? So what that means is if we look at AutoCAD, I do my line, I would draw an object line from one end to the other, okay? The other line that I can put in that's going to go straight across is going to be this kind of the upper flat here. I can't draw where this one is starting and stopping, but this line from here, like if you would, all the way back is going to be a line going straight across as well. So we'll go back to AutoCAD and I can draw this line, the upper line. Oopsie. Be careful not to grab it. If you have perpendicular on, and sometimes I'm going to turn it. It's not terrible to have on, but running object snaps, it'll grab perpendicular before an intersection. So I am going to turn that off for right now. It grabbed something I didn't want it to. It wasn't where I needed it. So line, make sure it goes to the intersection and intersection. There we go. Oh, see, it did it. There we go. Make sure it goes intersection, 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 and doesn't grab the midpoint. Okay. So got to kind of stop there for the right side view. So that means we're going to have to go up to our top view. Okay. And that's good. All right. So a couple things. If we know that this part at the bottom is going all the way through, okay, we can put the hidden lines in there right away because it's on the bottom of the part and we wouldn't see it in the top view. So I'm going to change to my hidden line layer. And I'm simply going to draw from intersection to intersection each one of those lines on either side in projection again with what's down below. Okay. So that's just representing these two lines right here. Okay. And I'm going to go back to construction. Then the next thing that I'm going to do, if I go underneath here, I'm going to deal with this little corner here. Okay. So I know that 1 inch in, okay, this point is going to start, and then it's going to be 50 degrees, okay, from horizontal. All right. So we already have a construction line there. And that construction line, if you would, in that top view is running right here. Okay. It's 1 inch. It's 1 inch over from the side. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this base point where it intersects with the front of that top view, and we're going to rotate it so that it's going to be 50 degrees from horizontal. But because this is, if you would, vertical, and if we go from here down to here, that's 90 degrees. So we're actually going to rotate it 40 degrees clockwise. Okay, and I'll show you this over here. It might make more sense when you see it. So right here, I'm going to zoom in. Right here is that line. Here's that construction line. It's crossing the front of my view right here. Now, the 50 degrees is coming from horizontal, so it needs to be 50 degrees this way. I am going to rotate this construction line. So go up to rotate, and you're going to select the construction line, okay? And then you're going to hit enter because we've selected, we just want that one selected. It wants us to specify our base point. We're going to go to the intersection of the front of that view right there, okay? And I'm going to turn off ortho. And, oh, I hit move on accident. I'm so sorry. Rotate is next to move. So I'm going to start over. Rotate, select, enter. And then we're going to grab our base point. Okay, now you probably did the right thing. I just didn't. Now, if you take your ortho off, okay, because we don't want it to be just up and down or left and right, we want to actually be able to rotate this, okay? Now, from its base position right here, I need to rotate it clockwise 40 degrees, okay? So that means I need to enter in an angle of -40 because remember, a positively directed angle is in a counterclockwise direction. I'm moving this clockwise, so -40, enter. And now it moved it to that position. Now, if you want to check, if you're like, I don't know why you put 40 in, Kelly, it was supposed to be 50. My end result is 50. So if I go to an angle dimension here and I click on the horizontal to that value, I did still, oh, I know why. I got to put my regular line in. Doesn't want a dimension to, it doesn't want a dimension to a construction line. I don't know why. It's kind of silly. So I have to put my line in first, and then I'm going to dimension it. So if I go from here to here, now it's going to recognize it's that 50 degrees. Okay. So a little bit of geometry there, not much, a little bit, just knowing that a 90-degree angle minus 50, 40 was left over. So there is that angle. Okay. So that is there. Now I can, since I have this distance, I could translate this over to the right side view over my miter line now. And I think I'll do that. So I am going to go back to my construction line layer. And I am going to take a construction line and I'm going to put a horizontal construction line through the intersection of this point right here. Okay. And now across my miter line right there. Now I'm going to do a vertical line to go down into my right side view. So I'm going to do another construction line through the intersection that just passed over that miter line, do a vertical line, and now I can finish that feature in that right side view. So if I go right here, go back to my object line layer, line, and now this is that upper kind of main floor, if you would, of our part. I'm going to go down, over, and in. And then that represents then that triangle cutout, if you would, on the corner in the right side view. Okay. All right. It's good. So we've got that in. Now let's deal with the business that's going on over here. Okay. So let's look underneath. If we look straight down, so top view, we know that this line starts at 1/4 inch. We already have a construction line for that. Then what we're going to do is this is going to go back 40 degrees, okay, as we look on the top until it intersects with the 1.25. So we've got a couple lines to put in. So here is that 0.25 line from the front. We're going to rotate this one again, just like we did the other. We're going to rotate it 40 degrees going clockwise so that it mimics the angle that it's going at from that top view. So I'm going to go to rotate. I'm going to select that construction line, enter. My base point is in the middle here, right, where it intersects. I have 2, go, I like to kind of, mimic the direction I'm going. So this is going to be a clockwise, so negative 40 degrees. There we go. Okay. Now it's going to intersect at the 1.25 point. Okay. So we're gonna find out, and I'm gonna offset. So if I do an offset here of 1.25 from the right side, I'm gonna click on my right side line and I'm gonna go to the left, and it actually went over the top of what is the right side of that cutout that's on there. Okay, so the line was technically already there. So we're gonna draw then our line in place. So we're going to click on the front here. We're going to go back to where it just intersected with the 1.25, and then we're going to go back on the face. Okay. If you go over the top of that hidden line, we need to deal with that. You do not want to have overlapping lines. That's not good construction. Sometimes you won't notice it. And if you hand something like this in, I may not notice it, but you know you did it. So what you want to do is, because it's underneath here, we could have trimmed it away to start, okay? But we can deal with it now. So I'm just going to left click on it, okay? And notice that it just grabs the hidden line. So don't do it on the part that the object line is over. You want to do it where just the hidden line is. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grab that endpoint and we're going to drag it down to that intersection and left click again. And now notice that that's where that line stopped. So we're using those grips and repositioning them to the end of the line. Okay. Like I said, when you guys hand in, I probably won't know if I see something like that because it's over the top. But like I said, you have to look in the mirror and know you have an overlapping line. All right. So we've got that in place, which is good. Good. We are going to push that over to our right side view. So we're going to take this corner right here and we're going to go horizontal construction line and down into our right side view. So go back to the construction line layer, construction line, grab that corner, make a horizontal line through, repeat, and then we're going to take that intersection and go straight down. I need my ortho on. There we go. Okay. And then now what this tells us is where that came over. Okay. Now let's look here. Okay. So now as we look, if we're looking on our right side view, this is our view here. And I know it might not be super obvious here because it's kind of an isometric, but from that back face, okay, or the very right side of our right view, okay, 0.94 in, you're going to notice there's a point right there. And this drops back 30 degrees, okay? We need to put that in there, all right? Because then we're going to be able to kind of finish things up here with where this line is in that view. So let's go back to AutoCAD. So that right side is right here, right? We're going to now offset, okay, 0.94, enter. And we are going to click on that one and we're going to push to the left into our view and we're going to have 0.94 offset of that construction line. Okay. Now that construction line, this is where that 30 degrees starts to slope back. So we're going to rotate this construction line right here. Okay. Enter. The base point is going to be here and I'm going to turn my ortho off. And now what I needed to do is I needed to rotate. So from horizontal, this is 30 degrees. So from vertical, I have to rotate it in a positive 60-degree direction. Do you guys see that? Does that make sense? So I'm just going to put in 60. You don't have to put positive. So my rotation angle is 60. Okay. So that means then what I have left over here is going to be 30 degrees. Okay. All right. So then now what we're going to do is we're going to draw the line oopsie, I gotta draw it as an object line. Draw the line from that intersection, okay? And then it's gonna go straight back to the end right there, okay? That's my 30 degrees. Now, this vertical line right here, that's that 1.25 edge. So if we go back underneath here, this was the line that this is the line, if you would, that we just created, okay? And then this 1.25 line, that's just an edge that we see going vertical. And we're gonna draw a line from this intersection up to where it intersects that 30-degree angle. Does that make sense to everybody? You see that? Okay. All right. Now, you got kind of these construction lines that are at angles. I'm going to get rid of those. Otherwise, it just starts to be, so those three lines that are at angles, those three construction lines at angles, I'm like, nah. And they start going into other places that they're just not needed. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to bring that 30 degrees back up in here and over, because that's going to create a line back here as well. So the 30-degree line right here, this one, we need to, that was that 0.94. So we are going to draw a construction line going straight back up over our miter line where the intersection of that 30-degree angle was. So I got to go ortho over the top, okay? So it's that line there all the way up, and then another construction line going horizontal, okay? So this is the edge where it starts to go that 30-degree slope back in the top view. Oopsie, no, I don't want dimension, I want object line. So now this line from that intersection is going to go from here, from that angle to here. Okay. Make sense? Okay. All right, so now we want to bring kind of some of that stuff back down into the front view. We're ready to do that. So I am going to get some horizontal lines across here. I need this horizontal intersection, okay, right there. So I'm going to go back to my construction line layer, and I'm going to do a horizontal construction line right through that intersection there, okay. And then I'm going to do a vertical construction line going down where that angle just came in. So another construction line, vertical. Okay. Now, what's going to happen here is if we look at our part back from the front view, this is not this is horizontal. This is a horizontal surface on the top, and then it starts to tip back. And then you've got another angle going back this way. So we are going to be connecting the line here from the very top of our part to here, okay? And that's what we're going to end up seeing in the front view. So let's go back to AutoCAD. So this is going to remain. And then when it crosses that angled portion, that's where I'm going to go back to my object line layer, line right there. I'm going to start my line, and it's going to go, I need to get my ortho off. It's going to go back to here and down. That's it, okay? So this is here, and then there's that angled part. Now, what we need to deal with are the leftover lines. So if we go back underneath, once this drops off here, this is going to be flat, and so is this, right? So we need to trim away the parts we don't need. So I'm going to trim away this. Oh, and I think I got to get that little part right there. There we go. Okay. So that is what the front view, as at least visible lines, that's what we got. Okay. Now, over on the right view, we can get rid of these two portions of the line here. So we can trim away, as long as we're in trimming mode, we can trim away this, 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 and that. Should go, all of it. There we go. Okay. Now I have a hidden line I got to add to my front view. Okay. That hidden line is going to be this back edge right here. So I'm going to go back to my hidden line layer. I'm going to grab the line. Now what I'm going to do, you could put a construction line in here, but if you have your, what is that called? Snapping reference lines active, you should be okay. So you just activate that edge. Then you're going to go over, 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 and where it hits all the way across, okay? That is going to be where that hidden line is, okay? We haven't saved in a while. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a file save quick, because we always want to save whenever we don't want to redo what we just did. I don't want to redo all that stuff. Okay. All right. So the last thing we need to do is there is a counter bore here, okay? So if we go underneath, there's a counter bored hole. It's a diameter of 1/2 through, and it is 3/4 inch diameter of a counter bore by 0.35 deep. Now, location wise, it's 0.75 from the front, and it looks like it's in the middle of the part, or 0.38 from that edge. So we have a couple options. We could use the snap from to find that center, okay? We could do offset construction lines to find that center. It's totally up to you. And any result will get us the same. I'm going to do offsets. So that's what I'm used to. So I'm going to first find the 0.75 going back into the view. I'm going to get rid of this middle, kind of middle-ish construction line, only because I don't want to confuse it for where I need it to be. So I am simply going to do the offset command, 0.75 distance, and I'm going to take that front construction line and put it back in. So it is this line right here that I'm going to be on. Now what I want is I want it basically in the middle of the part. So I have an option. You'll notice that this line in the front goes all the way across. So because I know it's in the middle of the part, I could simply create a construction line, and I am going to activate the midpoint of that front line and just make a vertical line. Okay. Or I could have done an offset halfway in, half of 3.25. Okay. So right here is my intersection for my counter bore. Okay. My counter bore, when I look from the top, is going to be object lines. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do a circle center diameter intersection, and it's going to be 0.75 for my larger diameter. I'm going to do that same circle again, intersection, and it's going to be 0.5 for the smaller diameter. They're one in the same. Okay. So there's my counter bore from the top. Now I've got to do the counter bore down in my front and right side views. I'm going to do the front view. Okay, first, go to my hidden line layer, because in this view, I would have to look through material to see it. So I'm going to draw, or I'm gonna activate the line command, and I'm gonna activate the quadrant here. Don't click on it, just activate it, and then go straight, 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 straight down. And when you get to that top-ish surface, the middle, middle surface, you are then going to go down the depth of the counter bore. The counter bore depth is 0.35. 0.35. So it'll make it that long. Then we know we're going to move to the right. Okay. I'm going to move to the right, and I'm going to go to the right. I know it's 0.75 wide, right? So 0.75. And then I'm simply going to go back up to the top. Okay. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to do another line. I'm not going to grab, I'm going to activate by hovering over the quadrant of the inner circle. And then I'm going to go down, down, down until, where'd you go? Did you leave me? Hold on. There we go. I kind of stick with it. You're not being nice. All right, let me try again. So line, activate the quadrant, go down, 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 down. And I've got to get to the bottom of my counter bore. Now I can zoom in. And then it needs to be perpendicular. See how I turned perpendicular off? That's okay. I'll just do shift, right mouse button, perpendicular. I'll be perpendicular to that. Okay. And then I know that this is 0.5 wide, so I can just do an offset, 0.5. And I'm going to go from one side to the left. Okay. Now, as we look at our hidden lines, and we especially look at our counter bore, you're going to notice that the lines that are going straight down, there aren't any breaks in them, right? So it doesn't look like a hidden line. So if you would print this off, you wouldn't print it off in green or in color. Normally, you're going to print it out in black and white. So you want to make sure that every one of these lines, when it is, that it looks like a hidden line. Excuse me. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to change the line type scale, okay? So we're going to put in that command, LT scale. Okay, LT scale, line type scale, enter. And it's going to ask us, what is our new line type scale? Because right now it's at 1. I'm going to put it down to 0.75. I don't think it has to move half because I think it's going to be kind of small then. So we're going to move it to 0.75, enter. And notice that I now have a nice break there without it being too small. So 0.75 is a good number. I will be looking for that on this stuff. Those are details you have to pay attention to, okay? All right. Then I'm gonna add my center lines for these two, and then I'm gonna copy over to the right view. Now, I feel like my construction lines are kind of getting in the way. So to just get rid of them all, I don't have to delete them all individually. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna arrow down, and right in front of the construction line layer here, there's that turn on and off layer. I'm just gonna turn it off. It's the light bulb. And now all my construction lines went away. If I wanted them back, they could come right back. It's kind of nice, but I can just get rid of them because you're not going to show them on a drawing. And I'm no longer going to use the miter line. So we are going to select that miter line and delete it. So just hit the delete key or hit erase. Okay. Now let's put our center lines in that we have so far. So I'm going to change my layer to the center line layer. I'm going to go over to the annotate tab. Okay. And we are going to put center line in. All right. I'm going to go down to my front view and I'm going to click on. Now, it really doesn't matter which ones you use because in the end, we're going to have to lengthen whichever one. So I'm just going to use the 1/2-inch lines, hit escape. I'm going to select this because remember, my center line has to extend beyond the entire feature. So the entire feature is a counter bore. So once I select that, I'm going to reselect or left click on the upper line, and I'm just going to make it go above the part a little bit. That's it. Kind of eyeball it. And by doing so, my center line now has the appropriate dash size in it. Does that make sense to everybody? You see that? Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to now, because now this has the center line in, and here is a time when I'm like, ooh, it'd be nice to have those construction lines back. Well, that's easy to do. All I got to do is go back to my home. I'm going to go back on my construction line layer. I'm going to turn them back on because now I can use the construction line that's in the front of my right side view to offset 0.75 to get the location in my view. So that's a 0.75 offset, okay? Now I'm going to copy my counter bore and its center line, okay? Counter bore and center line. So I'm going to go to the copy command right down below move, okay? And I'm going to put now I got to be careful. See, it's not going to work. I'm going to singly select these because if I put a window around it, my counter bore on top is the same width as the bottom here, and it's going to select everything. So it's too big. So I'm going to singly select each one of my lines for my counter bore and my center line. Okay. Once I do that, I'm going to hit enter. My base position is going to be at the intersection of my center line, and then I'm going to pan over and I'm going to copy this to that 0.75 offset that I just created. Now I can turn off my construction lines. There we go. Cool as that. Let me see if I can get them all three on there. There we go. Okay. Now, one more thing, I need to add my center mark. So I'm going to go back to the Annotate tab. Here's the center mark. You're going to click on it, and then you're going to activate the outside. You're going to left click on that outside diameter for my counterbore in the top view. And there we go. Okay. Now, let's just do a real quick compare because I'm just looking to make sure we have everything. So I don't want to forget anything. Yes, construction of it all looks great. So I'm gonna do a file save here. Okay. And now what we've done is on our template, we have created our actual drawing. And this is what you would normally do when you're starting from scratch. Okay. Now the next steps to finish up this drawing are going to be to pull in the border and then add the dimensions. I'm going to stop our recording here because this will be the construction of the three views. And then we're going to do, we'll do a separate video for the border and the dimensions. Okay. Any questions before I kind of stop here? Yes. I'll have to come and look at that individually. Any other questions just in general? Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording.